In a controversial move that has sparked widespread debate, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has announced the revocation of more than 300 visas for students and other visitors to the United States, citing their involvement in campus activism that he deems counter to American interests. This initiative, part of a broader crackdown on immigration policy under the Trump administration, has raised alarms about the implications for free speech and the treatment of dissenting voices in the educational sphere. During a press conference held in Georgetown, Guyana, Rubio stated, "Every time I find one of these lunatics, I take away their visas," referring to individuals involved in protests and activism that disrupt campus life. His remarks come in the wake of the high-profile arrest of Rumeysa Ozturk, a Tufts University graduate student and Fulbright scholar, who was detained by federal immigration agents while on her way to break the Ramadan fast. Ozturk had co-authored a 2024 opinion piece criticizing her university's handling of student demands for divestment from companies linked to Israel, which Rubio characterized as grounds for visa revocation. Rubio's aggressive stance, which he claims reflects a commitment to national security, has drawn criticism for its lack of due process and specific evidence linking visa holders to criminal activity or terrorism. In his own words, he suggested that those who apply for student visas with intentions that extend beyond their academic pursuits, specifically to engage in disruptive activism, are not welcome in the U.S. We don't want it in our country. Go back and do it in your country, he declared. Critics have pointed out the chilling effect such policies could have on freedom of expression on campuses across the nation. In a legal filing, Ozturk's attorneys noted that she had been targeted by Canary Mission, a controversial website that profiles individuals it deems anti-Israel. The site's accusations against her were largely based on her publicized views rather than any direct involvement in violent or unlawful activities. This raises fundamental questions about the boundaries of acceptable discourse in a democracy, particularly in educational settings where diverse viewpoints should ideally be fostered. Rubio's actions have ignited a fierce debate about the intersection of immigration policy and free speech rights. Many observers are concerned that the administration's approach mirrors tactics employed by authoritarian regimes that suppress dissent. In his comments, Rubio acknowledged that he has personally reviewed cases before proceeding with visa cancellations. Yet he declined to disclose the mechanisms through which individuals were selected for deportation, citing ongoing efforts to identify more troublemakers. The ramifications of this policy extend beyond the immediate cases of Ozturk and others like her. The administration's focus on social media monitoring to identify visa holders who express dissenting political views raises profound ethical questions about surveillance and the right to free speech. As Rubio noted, the situation is fluid and he anticipates continuing efforts to revoke more visas as they seek out individuals who engage in what he defines as disruptive activism. As the controversy unfolds, the implications for the future of academic freedom and immigration policy remain uncertain. The Trump administration's approach, characterized by a punitive stance towards individuals expressing unpopular opinions, may set a precedent that could reshape the landscape of higher education in the United States. With ongoing legal challenges from those affected by these actions, the coming months are likely to see significant developments in both the courts and public discourse surrounding free speech and immigration rights. In a significant reshaping of the Department of Defense's civilian workforce, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has initiated a realignment strategy aimed at streamlining operations and enhancing efficiency. The move, which comes amid increasing scrutiny over national security protocols, includes the reopening of the Defense Department's Defense Readiness Program (DRP). This decision is being closely monitored as it could have far-reaching implications for the future of defense operations in the United States. Hegseth's directive, signed on March 29, 2025, outlines a plan to reduce the overall workforce within the Department of Defense. This aligns with ongoing efforts to adapt to changing defense needs and fiscal constraints. In a statement, Hegseth noted, "Our goal is to create a more agile and responsive Defense Department that can meet the evolving challenges we face globally." The implications of this workforce reduction are expected to resonate throughout military operations, affecting not only civilian employees but also the military personnel they support. Amid this backdrop, Hegseth is facing intense scrutiny over national security practices, particularly following revelations that his wife Jennifer Hegseth attended several sensitive meetings with foreign officials, raising alarms about potential breaches of protocol. Jennifer's presence at high-level discussions, including a confidential meeting with UK Secretary of Defense John Healey and a NATO gathering focused on military collaboration with Ukraine, has drawn bipartisan condemnation from lawmakers concerned about security clearances and the handling of classified information. Questions surrounding Jennifer Hegseth's security clearance have emerged as her participation in discussions involving critical national security issues is deemed highly unusual. Pentagon officials have refrained from confirming her clearance status, further complicating the narrative. Experts argue that allowing family members into such discussions could compromise the integrity of sensitive military operations. Chuck Hagel, a former defense secretary, expressed concern over the implications of such practices, noting, "It sends a concerning message about the handling of classified information and the seriousness with which we approach national security." The controversy has prompted calls for an investigation by Congress, with key senators urging the Department of Defense's Inspector General to thoroughly examine the circumstances surrounding Jennifer Hegseth's involvement in classified meetings. This scrutiny extends to Hegseth's management of classified communications, particularly following reports that he utilized a messaging group which included a journalist to coordinate military actions, a practice that raises significant security questions. Adding to the complexity of the situation is the involvement of Hegseth's brother Philip, who has recently taken on a role at the Department of Homeland Security as a liaison to the Department of Defense. Philip's participation in defense operations, despite lacking formal defense credentials, has raised further concerns about nepotism and the potential for conflicts of interest within the defense establishment. As the controversy unfolds, defense experts are advocating for stricter security protocols to prevent unauthorized access to sensitive information. The implications of these events could be far-reaching, potentially impacting not only Hegseth's tenure as Secretary of Defense but also broader national security practices moving forward. In a related development, a recent incident involving the Air Force's Doomsday plane, the E-4B, has sparked public interest and speculation. The sighting of armed guards accompanying Hegseth during a flight raised eyebrows on social media, leading to a flurry of speculation about their purpose. However, it has been clarified that the guards were part of a specialized team responsible for the security of the aircraft itself rather than personal security for Hegseth, illustrating the heightened security measures surrounding military operations. As the Defense Department navigates these challenges, the coming weeks will likely reveal more about the outcomes of the investigations and the potential reforms that may ensue. The decisions made now could set the tone for the future of defense operations and the management of national security in an increasingly complex global landscape. In a significant upheaval within the U.S. Health Administration, Dr. Peter Marks, the top vaccine official at the Food and Drug Administration (FDA), has resigned, citing a troubling shift in the agency's commitment to scientific integrity under Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. This abrupt departure has raised alarms among public health experts and advocates who fear the ramifications on vaccine policy and public trust in health institutions. Dr. Marks, who has been a pivotal figure at the FDA, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic as part of Operation Warp Speed, expressed profound concerns in his resignation letter. He stated, "It has become clear that truth and transparency are not desired by the Secretary, but rather he wishes subservient confirmation of his misinformation and lies." This stark critique underscores the growing tensions within the Department of Health and Human Services (HHS) under Kennedy's leadership, which has been characterized by a controversial approach to vaccine safety and effectiveness. The timing of Marks's resignation coincides with sweeping cuts to the workforce at HHS, where Kennedy announced plans to eliminate 10,000 jobs representing about 25% of the department's staff. This restructuring is expected to save approximately $1.8 billion annually, but it raises serious concerns about the ability of agencies like the FDA and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC) to function effectively. Among the agencies impacted, the FDA stands to lose 3,500 positions, complicating its mission to ensure the safety and efficacy of medical products. Experts are particularly worried that these workforce reductions will lead to slowdowns in the approval processes for drugs and medical devices. J.P. Leiter, director at the Center for Public Health Systems at the University of Minnesota, pointed out that the cuts might impact the timely reviews essential for public health. Getting everybody into the same system means there will be slowdowns, he noted, emphasizing that even administrative roles are crucial for maintaining operational efficiency at the FDA. Kennedy's controversial stance on vaccines has further fueled concerns about the future of public health initiatives. His administration has brought in figures critical of vaccine safety, including David Geyer, to lead studies examining links between vaccines and autism, a theory long debunked by scientific research. Marx warned that undermining confidence in vaccines which have met rigorous standards for safety and effectiveness poses a clear danger to public health. He pointed to an ongoing measles outbreak in Texas as evidence of the consequences of vaccine hesitancy, noting that the disease can lead to severe complications, underscoring the critical need for robust vaccination efforts. The fallout from these policy shifts is not limited to the FDA. The CDC is expected to cut 2,400 jobs, while the National Institutes of Health (NIH) will eliminate 1,200 positions. Affecting vital research funding. Researchers and scientists have expressed concern that such reductions will hinder the development of the next generation of medical innovations. Without the NIH to keep that pipeline going, it will be really hard for young scientists with bright minds to do that work in the U.S., warned Leiter. As this restructuring unfolds, the implications for American healthcare could be profound. The reorganization aims to streamline operations and save costs, but the potential for decreased efficiency and diminished public trust in health agencies cannot be overlooked. Advocates fear that low-income and vulnerable populations may be disproportionately affected by cuts to Medicaid and other critical health services, especially as Congress considers further budget reductions. In light of these developments, the path forward remains uncertain. The FDA's ability to maintain its standards and public confidence in vaccines could be at risk as Kennedy's administration pursues a new direction that many experts view with skepticism. With the landscape of public health shifting dramatically, stakeholders are left grappling with the potential long-term consequences of these changes. Marx's departure may signal a pivotal moment in U.S. health policy, one that could reshape the future of vaccine regulation and public health for years to come. In a week marked by significant developments in the realm of gun rights and high-profile legal processes, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has emerged at the center of critical discussions surrounding the restoration of Second Amendment rights and the handling of sensitive investigations, including those tied to the late Jeffrey Epstein. On March 28, 2025, Bondi announced a pivotal interim rule aimed at reviving the process for restoring firearm rights to individuals labeled as prohibited persons. This category encompasses those who have lost their gun ownership rights due to felony convictions, even if those crimes were non-violent or occurred many years ago. The rule rescinds the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives (ATF's) authority to adjudicate such applications, a move that has been welcomed by gun rights advocates who argue that the current legal framework has unjustly trapped many law-abiding citizens under a de facto lifetime gun ban. Eric Pratt, Senior Vice President of Gun Owners of America, remarked, "For decades, law-abiding Americans who have had their gun rights unfairly restricted have been left in legal limbo, creating an unconstitutional de facto lifetime gun ban." Bondi's decision follows a broader push from the Trump administration to reassess regulations that infringe upon Second Amendment rights as outlined in an executive order issued earlier this year. The existing law 18 U.S.C. 922G broadly defines prohibited persons, including anyone convicted of a crime punishable by more than a year of incarceration without consideration for the nature of the offense or its recency. This sweeping definition has raised concerns about fairness and the ability of individuals to reclaim their rights once they have served their sentences and reformed their lives. Bondi's rule aims to create a pathway for individuals seeking to restore their rights contingent upon their behavior and circumstances, while ensuring that truly dangerous individuals remain barred from firearm possession. While Bondi's announcement has generated optimism among advocates for gun rights, it also underscores deeper systemic issues rooted in legislative decisions made decades ago. Critics point out that Congress has historically impeded the ability of the ATF to process applications for the restoration of gun rights, creating a convoluted and ineffective bureaucratic landscape. As Bondi's interim rule seeks to address these challenges, it may also necessitate new legislative measures to fully implement the proposed changes. In a separate but equally impactful development, Bondi has been vocal about the recent delivery of a substantial cache of files related to Jeffrey Epstein from the FBI. During a Fox News appearance, she described the transfer as a truckload of documents, asserting that the FBI had been withholding critical evidence. "I gave the FBI a deadline of Friday at 8 a.m. to get us everything," she stated, highlighting the urgency and importance of transparency in the ongoing investigation into Epstein's alleged trafficking network. The release of these files has sparked controversy and disappointment, particularly among lawmakers who expected more substantial revelations rather than what they characterized as a mere phonebook of names. Bondi criticized the previous administration for failing to act on these documents, emphasizing the need for accountability and a full disclosure of information surrounding Epstein's operations. "It's a new day. It's a new administration and everything's going to come out to the public," she declared, reiterating the public's right to know. As the political and legal landscapes continue to evolve, Bondi's initiatives reflect a broader commitment to addressing long-standing grievances within both the gun rights movement and the ongoing quest for justice in high-profile cases like that of Epstein. With the Justice Department poised to undertake further actions, including potential legislative proposals to modify existing regulations, the coming months may prove pivotal in shaping the future of Second Amendment rights and transparency in federal investigations. The implications of these developments could reverberate across various sectors, highlighting the intersection of law policy and civil rights in contemporary America. Scott Bessent, a prominent figure in the financial world, has made headlines recently due to his influential role in shaping regulatory policies and his connections to high-profile donors. Bessent, who has carved out a significant career as a hedge fund manager, notably served as the chief investment officer for George Soros's family office. His tenure in this capacity has established him as a key player on Wall Street, where he has garnered respect and scrutiny alike. As the financial landscape continues to evolve, Bessent's recent actions highlight the intersection of finance and politics, particularly with regard to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau (CFPB). In a striking turn of events, Bessent's brief appointment as the acting director of the CFPB was marked by controversial decisions that have raised alarms among consumer advocates and lawmakers. Following his appointment, Bessent issued a stop-work order that effectively halted the agency's operations, a move described by critics as an attempt to undermine its foundational mission. Senator Elizabeth Warren, a staunch advocate for consumer protection, spoke out vehemently against the actions taken during Bessent's tenure. In a video statement, she cautioned that the efforts to shutter the CFPB represented a significant threat to American consumers. "If you have a bank account or a credit card or a mortgage or a student loan, this is a code red," Warren stated, framing the situation as a direct attack on the protections established in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis. She emphasized that the CFPB was created to safeguard consumers from deceitful practices by financial institutions, a mission that is now at risk. Amid this backdrop, the Senate Banking Committee has been active in addressing concerns around reputational risk as a regulatory tool. Chairman Tim Scott's introduction of legislation aimed at eliminating reputational risk from bank supervision reflects a broader push by the Trump administration to curtail what they perceive as politicized regulatory practices. "Debanking federally legal businesses and law-abiding citizens is un-American," Scott asserted. indicating a strong ideological stance against perceived overreach by financial regulators. The legislation, which has garnered support from various financial institutions and advocacy groups, seeks to ensure that regulatory oversight is based on objective criteria rather than subjective assessments of reputational risk. The implications of these regulatory changes are profound. By removing reputational risk from the regulatory framework, proponents argue that it will allow banks to operate more freely and serve a wider array of customers without the fear of political retribution. However, critics warn that this could lead to a lack of accountability for financial institutions, potentially opening the door for practices that harm consumers. As Scott Bessent navigates this complex regulatory environment, his influence on policy and practice will likely continue to be scrutinized. The ongoing debates surrounding the CFPB and the broader financial regulatory landscape signal a pivotal moment in American economic policy. Looking ahead, the outcome of these legislative efforts and the ensuing public response will shape the future of consumer protections in the financial sector, making it essential for stakeholders to remain vigilant and engaged in the evolving discourse. In recent developments that have stirred significant political discourse, Democratic lawmakers are calling for an investigation into Howard Lutnick, the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, following his promotion of Tesla. This request for scrutiny from the Office of Congressional Ethics stems from concerns over potential conflicts of interest and the influence of corporate interests in political decision-making. Lutnick's endorsement of Tesla, a company that has faced its share of controversy under the leadership of Elon Musk, raises questions about the intersection of corporate influence and political responsibility. As a well-known figure in finance and corporate leadership, Lutnick's vocal support for Tesla could be seen as an attempt to sway public and political opinion in favor of the automaker's policies and practices. There is a fine line between promoting a company and using one's position to influence political outcomes, noted a Democratic representative who requested anonymity to speak freely on the matter. The crux of the concern lies in whether Lutnick's actions constitute a breach of ethics, particularly given Tesla's ongoing negotiations and dealings with government entities. Critics argue that such endorsements can create a perception of impropriety and a troubling proximity between corporate objectives and legislative actions. The Democrats' request highlights a growing unease surrounding the role of wealthy corporate leaders in shaping public policy, particularly when their interests may not align with those of the general populace. As the investigation unfolds, it will delve into the implications of Lutnick's promotion of Tesla and whether it undermines the integrity of public office. The outcomes of this inquiry could have broader ramifications for how corporate endorsements are viewed within the political landscape, potentially leading to stricter regulations regarding the conduct of business leaders who engage in public advocacy. The situation also reflects a larger trend in American politics where corporate influence is under increasing scrutiny. With the rise of social media and the immediate dissemination of information, any misstep or perceived conflict can quickly escalate into a full-blown controversy. As this investigation progresses, observers will be keenly watching how it might affect Lutnick's standing in the business community and the broader implications for corporate lobbying in Washington. Looking ahead, the results of this inquiry may not only shape the future of Lutnick's influence but could also prompt lawmakers to reassess the ethical boundaries of corporate involvement in politics. As the lines between business and government continue to blur, the call for greater accountability and transparency is likely to resonate more deeply with constituents demanding ethical governance.